welcome to pretty much an inaugural edition of the Brewery Boys Expedition podcast. I'm here with my partner, Max P. I'm Ricky J. And we are going to go over some of the things right now that are kind of happening at the Lewis and Clark Brewing Company. Max is the owner, so he's going to bring us up to date.
Yeah, very cool to start this new way of interacting with people on a regular basis. And I think our goal is to not only get together, have some beers, and have a good time, but let people know what's going on. I think that's probably the question I get the most at the tap room is like, oh, who's coming next week? Or what's the next big band that you got coming? And it doesn't matter how many different ways you try to interact with people. We've talked about social media, and we've got the digital billboard now, and we got radio ads, and we got all these different ways. And you still find people that will come in the next day and say, oh man, I can't believe you had Pat Travers here. I didn't even know anything about
I know.
it.
I didn't hear about that. Or people ask me, what's going on at the brewery? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you've got a device in your hand that could, but it's just hard it's amazingly hard even today to connect with people.
I think there's like too much information. And so it's easy to kind of it's all noise. So our goal here at the first part of the podcast each week is just going to be to let you know what's going on event-wise, whether it be live music or other events that we have going on at the brewery or tap room, and then what's going on the beer side. We got any new beers coming out and that sort of thing. So normally we'll try to get these out at the end of the week so that you'll know what's coming for the next week. This is kind of our first one, so we're going to cram a little bit of extra stuff into it. So, this weekend coming up, we're looking at, August 24th. We have the Lowdown Drifters, a great band that have been through the brewery a number of times, have also played down at Highway 30 Music Fest. They've got over 500,000 monthly listeners, I think 575,000 monthlies out on Spotify. These guys are the real deal. So if you want to see some great live music, kind of that alt country kind of flair, come on down Thursday night. If we get this out and you see that pop up, that's definitely something to check out. And then, of course, this weekend we got the Wake the Giant festival that we partner with Westmont each year. Such a great cause and so many positive things that organization does in the greater Helena area. And so we're excited to partner with them once again. Friday night, the event is actually at the tap room. And then Saturday night or Saturday during the day and Saturday evening is going to be out at their actual farm out at Westmont. So look forward to seeing everybody out there, seeing them at the tap room as well. And then
to kind of give everyone a reference, August 22nd is today. We're recording the evening of August 22nd, so it gives everyone the idea.
We're talking 25th and 26th for that event. And then if we peek into next week, so you'll definitely be listening to this and plenty of time to know what's going on the following week. We have couple of good live music opportunities for you. You got the War Hippies coming up on Thursday, August 31st. And then we actually have a couple of open dates that we're filling right now with bands. We've just gone through some transition with the booking of the bands actually coming back into Rick and I's.
Yeah, we've taken that back over.
Fold.
Here we go.
So it'll be kind of fun getting a mix of local and regional and national acts that come through the brewery. And if we look a little further out, if you look into September, we got Squirrel Gravy coming. We've got, in October, we've got a big event with Rail and Blue Tattoo. That's October 20th. Tickets are for sale on that already. And also The Waiting, which is the Tom Petty tribute band, coming up on October 27th. So got a lot of good stuff that we'll be talking about in the next upcoming weeks as far as events and then other things outside of the live music stuff. We got free beer bingo on Fridays some nights, and we're just going to be kicking off again, probably open mic here pretty soon. And we got the Solid 15 with Taylor that's going to be putting that together again this year. So we got a lot of really good stuff that's ramping up for the fall. It's just kind of almost an adjustment and a little bit of a bummer to realize that school starts next week.
Exactly.
And these precious 12 weeks of summer are now gone for us.
Exactly.
And next year, of course, we'll be doing a lot more of these podcasts throughout the summer. And actually even Rick and I are working on doing some mobile stuff because we do end up getting on the road quite a bit, which we'll talk about today. And so that we can try to give you a more up-to-date shot of what we're doing that week, whether it be at a music festival like Braun Brothers or Gordy's or a beer festival or a beer competition and all those kind of things.
Well, as you know, we're involved with the Lewis and Clark Brewing Company. Obviously, we've been with for what are we at? 22 years?
Yeah.
But we wanted this podcast to encompass more than that. So we actually have a hat you have on, Bob Marshall Music Festival.
Yeah.
And do some other stuff, but also we just like to do fun stuff. So we didn't want to limit the audience to just brewery stuff, but we've talked about getting the news out, getting the events out so people could look into check the podcast out, get the information they need about what's coming up, and then we can take it wherever we want to go.
Yep.
So absolutely. I know you've done a great job taking photos and stuff of some of the adventures we've had this summer.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a summer. I guess right before we jump into the summer on the beer front, one of the new beers that we have out actually is one that I'm drinking right now, which is the Helena Haze IPA. And those of you that can remember back to our very first hazy IPA that we ever produced was called Helena Haze, but it was actually called Helena Haze NE IPA for New England IPA. And of course, when hazies first came out, we didn't really even call them hazies. We called them New England IPAs because that's where they came from. And so we certainly weren't the first to come out with a hazy, but I've been enjoying them for years, and they certainly aren't going anywhere. They're still a very popular category. So over the last, I'd say 4 years, we've been perfecting a hazy IPA recipe, and we've had it under a couple of different names. Most recently, the Juicy Obsession Hazy IPA.
Right.
And the brewing team has been working on just slight refinements to that, mainly in the hop profile and also in making sure that it stays nice and hazy. So there's a number of different things you can do ingredient-wise to make that happen. But I'm really excited about this beer. I actually personally went down and purchased 5 different hazies at the store, 5 Montana hazies, and set them up on the counter and just did my own personal kind of blind taste testing of them, if you will. And I'm really proud to say that I really believe this is the best one out there. And obviously, it's our beer, and so it's easy to say that. But I really would. I'm actually thinking about, as a marketing effort, actually creating almost like, remember in the old days when you'd go into a bar and they would have like the light beer challenge, and you drink a Coors Light and a Bud Light and a Miller Light, and you didn't know what you were drinking, and then you just said what was the best. I'd really like to do some events like that in the upcoming months, to where we actually feature some great Montana hazies, and then maybe in a hazy from even out of the state, and just so people can actually get their taste buds around different types of hazy IPAs, because that category is super popular. I think one reason it's so popular is it's not a super bitter IPA for the most part. The IBUs on hazy IPAs, and the IBUs stand for International Bitterness Units. It's like how hoppy something is or how bitter something is. And they tend to be much lower than a West Coast style IPA, certainly a lot less than normal double IPAs and things like that. And they tend to have a real juicy, fruity, citrusy kind of character to them. And I think they're just a lot more approachable for a lot of people. So people that didn't normally like IPAs or had this bad connotation, like, oh, I don't know, IPAs, that's just, I never liked those. They're too bitter. They drink these and they're like, wow, that tastes really good. It's really smooth. It's kind of creamy. It's, and a lot of that is the fact that it's a full-bodied beer, but it has a really nice tropical, in most cases, note to the hoppiness. So it's not that bitter slap you in the face kind of piney, dank. Sure. It tends to be more fruity.
And there's some partnership with this, right? And even on the can, QR code.
Absolutely.
What's that take you to?
Yeah, we've partnered with Visit Helena, actually, of course, our hometown here in Helena, Montana. And so they have a QR code there where you can scan that and it'll take you right to their site that gives you information about mountain biking trails and hiking trails and hotels and all sorts of opportunities for you to engage with. What do I do when I come to Helena, Montana? Because we are not certainly not the mecca of tourism in Montana, but we tend to get a lot of people that are coming from, like, let's say they've been to Yellowstone and they want to go to Glacier. We're kind of halfway between there. And I think there's more and more people that are discovering Helena, because for a smaller community that we're certainly growing now, but we have a lot to offer. We've got a lot of cool history, and with the old Gold Rush days and all the stuff down in the Walking Mall, and it's just kind of a cool town.
The tour train, I want to pretend that it's hokey, but it's not. I enjoy that every time. The historians drive it during the summer, and when I have visitors come out, I normally, unless I've drug it on them, put them on it several times, I hit the tour train.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
very, very interesting. It's amazing the amount of money that was in this community, the amount of millionaires.
Yeah.
It's interesting that people would build homes and they would have visitors from around the world for their grand opening of their home, the housewarming, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to me to think about traveling across the ocean on a steamer to go to someone's housewarming
in Montana.
Yeah. But there's unbelievable amounts of history here. And then, thinking of how, electricity got to some of these areas pretty early because of the money that was here.
Yeah.
It's an interesting community.
Yeah. I think it's a great day or two stopover, even if you're planning on seeing something else in Montana. The state capitol is a great place to kind of get a flavor of Montana. We got a great museum here, and there's just a number of things. And now we have the Pedal Pub that actually starts and finishes at Lewis and Clark Brewing Company every day. I believe it's going to run through, if I remember right, I think he's going to run it through mid-September, maybe even the end of September.
Just kind of weather dependent?
Yep. Just one of those kind of summertime kind of things. But I think they're doing 3 trips a day, and it's been, every time I see it load up at the brewery and come back, it's full. So people are loving that. Just a great way to kind of see the path from the brewery to downtown, and they stop at 2 or 3 breweries and you get a opportunity to sample a bunch of beers. So kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, neat. It's neat to see Helena's porting it, but I don't think snow tires would work out very well.
No, not too good. So the Helena Haze is new, and then the other thing that is certainly right around the corner that a lot of people have been asking about is the Mexican lager.
Oh, that's so good.
We have that available starting next week on draft, and then within about 2 weeks, we're going to get the cans in for the Mexican lager. And at that point, it's going to be full-time Mexican lager all year round in the stores, on tap in bars and restaurants. And we're super excited about that as well. I mean, it's really the only seasonal that ever outsold Miner's Gold. And so we believe
the most award-winning hef in the nation.
In history. And so it's definitely got a market out there, and people have been asking about it a lot. So we're excited about that.
Well, I threw some of that in when I last trip I took home, I guess this spring, and I let some family sample it, and I could tell they weren't familiar with the style.
Yeah.
But as soon as they tried it, they loved it. And it quickly was. I didn't ask them what their favorite was, but they were probably sad I didn't bring more of it.
Such an easy drinking beer, and a great summertime beer. But the more we had it out even early in the year, and people are just looking, I think, for little lower ABV, so that 5% is a great level.
Sure.
That I can drink several of them throughout an evening, not feel like I can't function, and I'm keeping my alcohol consumption to a level that feels comfortable. Or if you're out on the lake all day, it's just one of those.
Right.
Sometimes you drink those 7, 8, 9% beers, and you have 1 or 2 of them, and you feel like you need to take a nap.
Right.
So
obviously, don't drink and drive, but
absolutely
drink responsibly. But even if you have obviously a driver, if that's not an issue, when you drink the higher alcohol beers, it does kind of tend to make your day end a little sooner.
Yeah,
so, right. It's nice to have those lighter beers that you can enjoy for a longer at the whole festival or out fishing or whatever. Yeah. So,
all right. So let's talk about summertime because we've had a hell of a summer. It's been fun. Starting with actually, let's even rewind a little bit further than that. In May, we won 2 more awards. Speaking of the beer at the World Beer Cup, which is just super awesome. And then in June, you and I went down to Idaho Falls for the NABA, which is the North American Brewers Association. They have a big festival down there, usually around 5,000-6,000 people at that beer festival, but they have judging ahead of that. And you and I got down just in time for the judging, I know, on that Friday night. And we had one heck of a night. It
was a really good night, yeah.
We just won a lot of medals down there. I was so excited and so proud of our brewing team because, again, when we enter these competitions, we're taking cans literally right off the shelf and sending them in. So it's not anything special that we're doing, but there's a photo of you and I with all of the medals that night. I mean, we won a gold for Miners Gold. We won a gold for Backcountry. We won a gold for Prickly Pear. I mean, those are 3 of our core
been
beers.
Around a long time, those beers.
Yeah, those are our mainstay
Still
beers.
Awesome.
And see all of them win gold was just super, super exciting. So, yeah, that was just a great evening, and we went out and had some beers, I know, down in Idaho Falls, and wearing all those medals and hearing them clang around and have people ask us
I said, Max,
you
got to wear the medals.
Cool.
You got to wear the medals. But everyone knew what was going on in that town, so they knew exactly what it was.
And then out of the blue, I don't know if we heard about it at the medal, but we heard that Reckless was playing.
Yeah, remember we were driving down and we said, well, let's see what's going on after. So I Googled
that's right. Yeah.
live music, and I'm like, Reckless is playing in town.
Yeah, so we reached out to Cody Braun and said, hey, we're in town for the beer festival and you guys are playing. And he said, hey, come on down, and hooked us up with a set of really nice tickets to the show there. And
yeah, that was awesome.
It was really neat. I've seen them before at Braun Brothers, of course, and I've seen them at our place, but it was kind of cool to see them in a totally different venue.
Right, and it kind of they're pretty close to their hometown venue. You could tell they did some stuff they don't normally do at their concerts.
Yep, a lot of Idaho references and a lot of songs that have Idaho in them, and so that was a really.
It was kind of almost a more intimate type of show.
Almost like coming home kind of show. You know?
Like those home secrets that you don't normally get exposed to.
So that was a super fun concert. But then the next day, we went to the Brew Festival, and if you want to jump on a couple of those images down below,
and of course we always talk to him as Reckless, but it's Reckless Kelly, obviously the full band. Love them,
Willie and Cody and the boys. So this is the North American Brewers Association Festival the next day in Idaho Falls, and there was a really good crowd turned out. Now, it didn't hurt that we won all those gold medals because you hang those medals up, and when people find out that you won the medal, that if you're going to go taste a bunch of beers, you're going to go taste a bunch of gold medal winning beers first. And so as soon as we opened, we had a line, and we didn't stop pouring until we were out of beer. And I believe we were honestly the first to run out of beer.
It went pretty quick.
I mean, we were probably less than an hour, and we were gone through all 4 kegs. Next year, we'll bring some extras. Again, it was just crazy how popular it was. Of course, we had the Gordy's Highway 30 Golden Ale on as well, which we took to Gordy's just a couple of weeks after that. And then, of course, the gold medal winning Miners Gold. We had the Halo Huckleberry, and I think that might have been the very first one to blow, actually. The Halo Hefeweizen, which is our Miners Gold with Huckleberry in it. And then we had the Prickly Pear. And we had a really cool setup there that you were running. Thank you very much for
it was fun.
Volunteering to take care of these folks that wanted to try the little putt-putt golf. You either won a golf towel or you won, I think, a hat if they made it in one of the holes. And there was a pretty steady line of people. It was kind of... It was almost like 4-wheel drive golf there when you look at it, because it was like pretty uneven ground and everything, but that kind of made it fun. Yeah.
I mean, it's no cost to enter, and you can win a free shirt or a free hat.
Or a golf towel, so It was a lot of fun. I think that one's a video there if you want to hit the play button. I think this guy steps up. He's got the right clothes on. He got the nice beer shirt going.
And he made it.
Nails it. Got himself a hat. So as soon as you start hollering like that, people, I don't know what it is. It's that carnival atmosphere. People just they automatically just get in line. I don't know what this is, but I just want to get in line.
I like it.
So that was the very beginning of June. And gosh, probably our first show at the tap room with the new game room access was June 17th outside. And got a shot here of the Young Dubliners actually playing. And this is a shot from the game room, which is the new Lewis and Clarkade, where we have, of course, pool, shuffleboard, pinballs, arcade games, a golf simulator. And this was the very first night that we had a concert that we could open up that big garage door in the game room. Now, this used to be a cooler, of course, and then last year we converted this into the arcade space, and it just really makes for a great, almost like a VIP kind of access to the outdoor.
It is nice. I recognize the back of my head now.
Yeah.
And Carl.
And if you look on the left and right, there's a couple of speakers up there. We actually have those time delayed from the stage. So we've measured the distance from the main PA to where your ears are inside the game room. And we've time delayed those speakers so that when you're in the game room, the sound is exactly the same as what you're hearing out. You're still hearing some of the PA coming through that opening, but we're reinforcing that with internal speakers. So even if you're halfway back into the game room, you're still hearing that great sound, and it doesn't have an echo or reverb to it because we've time delayed it.
Right. That's good.
That worked out really well. Appreciate shout out to Dave Breyer, our head
he's amazing
sound engineer that does this stuff. I mean, he is just so dedicated, and he cares about the overall quality of the product that we are putting out. Whether, we obviously care about the beer, but it's nice to know that someone cares about sound and lights and all those other things that make the whole package so cool. Yeah, so then right after that was June 17th, and then you and I loaded up the trailer and hit the road to Gordy's Highway 30. Actually, we took, or did we take your RV on that one?
It was the last
trip with the big RV.
Trip with the RV I had,
Yeah, nice, okay. Yeah, I thought that was a little, because I drove the beer truck down, that's right. And this year at Gordy's Highway 30, which if you haven't heard of Highway 30 Music Fest, you got to check it out. One of the best music festivals I've been to. It's just such a well-run event, and just such a great lineup this last year. But it's right outside of Twin Falls, Filer, Idaho. They do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday now, so it's a 4-day festival. This year we took the big Lewis and Clark tent, set that up, and then we had 2 beer gardens. We had a beer garden right behind this, and then the stage is actually just behind that big tree that you see there on the big tent. But we had 2 beer gardens with draft beer, and of course Lewis and Clark Draft was flowing, and we also had cans of the Gordy's Highway 30, and of course some of the AB products there too, Mick Ultra and stuff. There's an image of people just starting to line up, and I think that last one might have been a video. I can't remember, but yeah.
Well, here's a shot of the Gordy's can. You can see.
Yeah. There's the Gordy's can, and Casey and you and I with our Lewis and Clark Idaho version shirts.
That's right. They're great shirts.
And that was, you can barely see it in this image, but if you look up above our heads and you see the stage back there, there's some little black lines in the sky, and those are misters. And Gordy did such a great job.
He did.
When it gets
That's
hot,
awesome.
Man, they turn those things on, and it's like 10, 15 degrees cooler right underneath there. So nice.
He removed trees from last year. So
Yeah.
I think the misters really made up for the shade that was lost.
Yep, absolutely. And what it did is it just encouraged people to start earlier, because normally they would just wait until it cooled down or until the shade was covering them.
Right.
Because the band is facing east, so they get that shade pretty soon. But that mist really made a huge difference. So yeah, it turned out to be just a really great event. Maybe got a little video here. I'm not sure who this. Oh, this is Shane Smith and the Saints. And see a great crowd. He's got a great VIP area. We're standing in the VIP area here, and you'll see it kind of swing to the left to show the crowd, and you can see the Lewis and Clark tent back there, the beer garden. And Shane Smith and the Saints put on just an amazing performance there. Actually started with, go ahead and let's try another one here. This is one of their really good hits as well.
They did put on a great show.
I mean, these guys sold out Red Rocks Amphitheater, I think, in less than a day or a day and a half or something. And they just really are on a rocket moving up. They're kind of on that same projectile that you and I seen Whiskey Myers the first time.
Right.
And what's happened to them in the last couple of years has just been incredible. How much bigger and bigger venues and bigger shows that they're playing to bigger and bigger crowds, which is really awesome. Yeah, and then
listen to a little bit of him if we.
Yeah, sure. Pull it up. Pop open a freshie. Yeah, and then I think let's see what we got next there in the old folder.
A little close up of the tent.
Let's show that video. That probably just kind of shows a little bit of the setup there with the line that we had going, and had a nice little setup there. People could scan and get more information. They could also win a trip up to the brewery, come to a concert, and stay at the Airbnb there. Some of our friends from Watkins Distributing that does all the AB products down there for us, does a great job for us. Craig and his whole crew down there. And we had a little TV going with actually some footage of when Gordy and his crew were up here doing the canning of the Gordy's Highway 30 Golden Ale, and we ran that kind of on a loop down there, so that was kind of cool. And here we got a little Whiskey Myers. Let's check them out. Kind of cool to see these guys do a cover too.
Yeah.
Sold out all 4 nights in a row. You see the beer garden back there to the left. We went through a lot of beer, that's for sure. There was a lot of thirsty people down there.
It's a fun concert. It is.
Good old Whiskey Myers. Tough to beat those guys. Nowadays you're gonna see them in bigger and bigger venues and probably pay a little bit more money for them.
Now, is this the
Let's
same?
see what we
Still
got
the
next
same?
year. Yeah, I think that was the same one. I might have sent that over to you twice. Oh, then this was really cool.
Oh, the after party.
Yeah, the after party that they had was super exclusive, probably 50 to 100 people. And most of the acts that played on the main stage came over and did an acoustic song or two at the after party. Right. This is the boys from Them Dirty Roses. Let's check them out. Just a really cool, intimate experience there. You're able to interact with the musicians, talk to them. And, of course, these guys came through the brewery as well. And just put on such a great show, too. They love to party, too. These guys are fun to hang with.
They love to have fun.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, yeah, after party, the food at Gordy's. I mean, all around, you and I are fortunate to have gone to a lot of different festivals. There's a picture of all the beer that we went through there, if you want to take a shot of that. That was actually only, I think, day 2 or 3. I think we went through somewhere between 70 and 100 kegs there.
That's a
draft.
good festival.
Yeah, it was really good. And Gordy and his whole team, Gordy, Megan, they just treat everybody really well there. I mean, we had good meals. It was well organized.
He does it right. There's no doubt.
It was just a really good experience. And they got some cool vendors down there. You and I both had hats made, I know, down there.
Right.
And just some.
I'll probably never wear it, though, but I did get it. I now have a really cool cowboy hat.
Yeah. Go to a country dance.
I'll be ready.
You're ready to go.
I'll be ready.
You just need some shit kickers and you're good
Exactly.
to go.
Those I do have.
Let's see who this is.
Yeah. Well, the crowd is sure, standing, that's a pretty big space. It's hard to tell how big it is. And that's a full packed house. And the first night were all female bands.
Coetzel is that one. The first night was all females, Morgan Wade and Lainey Wilson.
Right.
Just some great, and I think it's the only festival that I remember going to that had a night that was dedicated to all females. That was kind of cool.
It was. It's always fun to see Lainey Wilson now because of the connection we know about our friend.
Yeah.
Mark, whose daughter was her double on Yellowstone.
Yep.
And so that's a cool thing. I'd like to get her on a podcast and just to talk about the experience.
Yeah, a lot of those bands that were down there actually were connected to Yellowstone. I think Shane Smith was on Yellowstone, and I can't remember if Whiskey, maybe a couple 3 years ago, but definitely Shane Smith and Laney, and I think there was one other one down there that was on Yellowstone. So that genre has definitely gotten more and more popular, kind of in mass appeal.
Right.
That kind of red dirt, alt country kind of stuff. So that's cool. So that was a great event. That was Highway 30. That was late June, and then I guess had another big party when we got back with 10 Years Gone out on the patio, and had a couple of different bands over 4th of July as well. There's a couple of shots of some stuff going on. There's a pretty good party going on out on the patio. Now we got a lot of extra grass there, and people sure love that lawn, and it's never looked as good as it did this year with those guys from 406 Landscaping, I believe, that are doing all that. They're just doing such a great job keeping it looking green. And there's Ben up there cranking the tunes and the crowd loving it. Definitely one of the more popular cover bands in Helena for sure.
Right, one of our favorites for sure.
People love to come out and party with those guys. And then after that, I guess our next show was the Devin Worley Band. These guys are out of Minnesota and put on a great show as well. I think I threw a video in that
the videos
folder. Trying to get these guys to come back, Devin to come back for the block party next year. But they put on a full show. I mean, lights, smoke, haze, all that stuff.
Well, do people see those glass deals in the back?
Yeah.
Those are not light, and they bring those with them.
Yeah,
for
not
each show.
light in that they're
heavy. Yeah, they're physically
They are
heavy.
actually lights.
Oh,
but,
yeah, they're lights. They look cool, but that's a kind of dead. Not only do they sound good, they put a hell of a show together.
Yeah, I think they came out of a church, they were saying, and they bring them in on casters. They are heavy, but they do add to kind of a cool look and feel. So that was Devin Worley towards probably the right around the 4th of July, I think we're probably getting through. And then, of course, Uncle Lucius was an amazing show, and we had a really good crowd for that. As a little video, I jumped up on the roof and took a video of folks, lots of lawn chairs out on the grass for this show. Of course, Uncle Lucius just, have been broken up for about 5 years, got back together, and just starting to really pull in some really nice crowds. They got, of course, that huge song that Keep the Wolves Away. There's another shot of the game room or the stage from the game room, and then here we go. Check this one out. Probably something we recognize.
To my first breath, where the muddy rises spills into the Gulf of Mexico, where the skyline's colored by chemical plants, put bread on the table of the working man, where the working man does his best.
Kevin's such a good guy. And band is just super solid, and had a great time with those guys. We hope to have them back, maybe even back on the inside, during a fall or spring or something like that. But they definitely, when people hear that song, and a lot of people, I think, originally when they hear it, they think, oh, I've heard this song. They must be covering this song because they've heard this song so much.
Until the whistle.
Yeah. I mean, it's 125 million views, or 130 million on YouTube alone. I mean, it's crazy how popular that song became.
Well, it'll be interesting to see now that they're back together and playing again, where they go from here.
Yeah, I think they got a new album coming out here shortly. So does Shane Smith and the Saints, going to be dropping a new album here shortly. So it's going to be exciting to see some of these folks that came through the tap room, have played when they were, maybe not quite as big as they're becoming now. And then our challenge is always to bring them back. And most of them, even though maybe the size of the tap room isn't as large as some of the other venues they can play, we built a good enough relationship with most of them that I think they'll still come back and enjoy it. So
that's awesome.
So that takes us through, I guess, we had Maggie Rose. That was pretty close to Uncle Lucius, another great show outside. And this was one of those that we didn't even know we were going to be doing. An opportunity fell in our lap, like, hey, Maggie Rose is coming through. And we didn't have a ton of time to throw it together, but we had a decent crowd show up, and she put on a great show. Such a powerful voice. Does a lot of her own stuff, but also does some great, just amazing covers as well. So that was...
She's got some pipes, there's no doubt.
Super fun night. Of course, that was one of those nights when you look out into the distance there, it's a little smoky. We've
really smoky.
Been challenged with some of that smoke rolling in and rolling out, and some days are clear and some days are not so clear. So...
Thank you, Canada.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, I guess we got a lot of them going in Montana now, too. And then not long after that, of course, our buddies El Wincho.
We love those guys.
Outside. Of course, this is their #1 single, Sugar Beets.
Let's hear it.
Always good to have these guys back, and they always put on such a great show and get people involved. And for two guys, I mean, they make a lot of different music.
Both are extremely talented, energetic, and people are just drawn to them.
Yeah, they got huge charisma and so much fun to hang out with, too. Just super good people.
Well, they've always done things. It's always been, for all the years we've known them, I don't think they've ever said no to a show or anything. And some have been little things.
Yeah.
And they're still like, yeah, we'll do that. And
Played
they just
at
always
both
been.
of my daughter's weddings.
Yeah.
So far, got one more to go. There you go, Carissa. You don't
Come
have
on.
a choice in the
Step
band.
it up.
But that was another great show outside. And of course, we had live music outside most of the time. Once in a while, we got to bring it back in. But then that led up to the block party, and that's kind of our big party of the year each year. And we made some pretty big changes. You can see on the screen right now, one of the biggest changes is move the stage from out by Montana Avenue and kind of on the gravel parking lot, and moved it over in front of our nice big wide yard area. And everybody just loved it. The musicians loved it. They had more shade. The people that showed up, the customers loved it. We even had some misters running off of the other stage out there, and then we had portable mister fans running, and because that was a really hot weekend.
Well, it was super hot, and finding the shade is something we learned. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but the first year that we went to Gordy's,
Yep,
or not the first year that we went, but year before this one.
Yep, for sure. There's just another shot at night. And then a shot during the day before we got going. And then a shot once the crowd shows up. The other kind of cool thing I didn't notice until I was looking through some of these photos, you look through that stage and guess what you see back there?
The old sleeping giant.
The old sleeping giant mountain range. It was just kind of a cool, we had food trucks and then, of course, the beer garden behind us and all that. And just had a great 2 days of live music, and we had slushies going and beer going and seltzers, and it was just turned out to be a really fun weekend. That's the weekend for us to kind of give back to Helena, and that everything is free. All the bands are free, and we had usually try to have a good country act and then a good rock or blues act, and this year was no exception. We had Curtis Grimes, and then we also had Rocky Athos, the blues guitarist, on Saturday night, and then a bunch of other local and regional bands during the day. But turned out to be a great block party, and we're definitely going to continue to use this setup for next year. You can see we had the beer rails out there going, and gives people some place to hang out and put their beer and still watch the show. And let's check out this movie. I think hear a little guitar action. It's kind of interesting. Rocky Athos, he's one of the icon in the blues world. I mean, he was one of the founding members of Black Oak, Arkansas, and played with John Mayall for 8 years, and he's played on lots of different albums and such. But this is actually him and his son, and then the drummer and the bass player are father and son. So it's kind of cool to have two father and son combo touring. It was really turned out to be a great show. So that was a great weekend.
Who do we have here? Let's see.
This is Curtis.
Curtis, yeah.
This was on Friday night. Kind of hear the sound from outside, and then as I pull back into the game room, you kind of hear some of the speakers in the game room kick in there too. So it works out really well doing that mix. Yeah, that took us through the block party. And then one of the other things we did all summer, which kind of cool, is we obviously do a lot of catering, and this was Alive at 5. So we did that every Wednesday, usually somewhere between 800 and 1,500 people per week. And they have a different band every Wednesday afternoon from like 5 to 8:30, 5:30 to 9, something like that. And our team just did a phenomenal job of putting that together, Heidi and everybody involved, to be able to serve that many people and keep those lines down to. Our rule is no more than 5 minutes that you have to wait in line for a beer, and most of the time it was much lower than that. We had 6 lines going, and in the past it had been done on a volunteer basis, and this was the first year that they said, hey, these guys do this for a living. They cater events constantly. They handle big events. Of course, we also cater the events over at the Civic Center. We've got one coming up actually in September, the MMA fights, and it's a pretty good chance that with obviously this last weekend with Sean winning and being
Sugar
from
Sean O'Malley, Helena native,
you're going to probably see a little uptick in the interest in MMA,
I bet
I'm
you
assuming. So that should be kind of a fun event. So yeah, we were thankful to do that for downtown Helena. Appreciate that partnership as well. And then actually one of my favorite bands that comes through is a band out of Minnesota called Wild Horses. And they remind me of a lot of different bands, whether it be Mumford and Sons or Band of Horses and all these different kinds of bands, because they're vocally driven and they do some great harmonies, but they also have just some really cool kind of let's get real quiet and then let's get really loud kind of moments in their songs. I think the next one's a video. We could hit a little bit and give you kind of a little taste of, this was really super cool. So this was after their show and people just didn't want to go home. So they got their instruments and they came down and they did an acoustic show, and everybody just gathered around and they sang a couple of songs totally acoustic, nothing plugged in.
That's amazing.
It was really, really cool. So always look forward to those guys. If you haven't checked them out, Wild Horses Minnesota or Wild Horses MN, and then you see the backside of a lot of them because they hung out and played pinball most of the night after that. We had a great time. The bands are really loving the arcade. I mean, after they play a show, to hang out, whether it's play pinball, shoot pool, play shuffleboard, play Pac-Man or Asteroids, or they love that aspect of having that kind of fun center afterwards.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, and then that takes us up to our other road trip, which was down to Chalice, Idaho, the annual Braun Brothers reunion. And I think there's one of these images has a picture of the can that I took. I can't remember if I had downloaded that one onto this one or not, but we did a special version of Miner's Gold, and on that can, we actually had the lineup, and we had a QR code and stuff like that. There's you and I in front of the stage there at Braun Brothers. But
seeing if we were holding the can anytime.
No, I don't. I don't see it. I must not have threw it over there. But at any rate, yeah, we great time to catch up with not only, of course, Reckless and Mickey and the Motor Cars, but also with our good buddy Cody Canada.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of his show. People definitely know that music.
Yeah.
Did a lot of cross-Canadian stuff, and I think he's really just enjoying doing that. I mean, he knows people want to hear that stuff, and so he's got some great new stuff, but it's awesome to hear him just really enjoying the old stuff as well. And Braun Brothers is another one that, if you haven't experienced, you really should, and you're into that kind of music at all, you should really experience it. It's very intimate, smaller venue.
Right.
You're definitely going to run into musicians, and look at the gorgeous setting there.
Well, it's one of those where they're pretty much the main acts are there all week, if not all the acts, or the whole festival.
Yeah, they're truly there as a reunion. I mean, they're there to enjoy each other's company.
Right. So you'll see them out in the crowd actually watching the other shows.
Yep.
And you just don't see that at other festivals.
And look at it's a little dry right on that corner, but this is the actual driving range of the golf course. And so the entire amphitheater, if you will, that's just one weekend a year, is on grass, and it's just so beautiful, and it's sloped all the way down, and it's just a really, really nice venue. And you can see some of the later show there, and they even put up video panels about halfway up, so if you're sitting in the back, you can see and hear just fine, and camping nearby, and just a really cool experience. Let's see what this one is. Might be one of Reckless or...
Looks like Reckless.
Yep. But one cool thing about Braun is, even though this is Reckless, you'll have Mickey up there.
Right.
You'll have Muzzy up. You'll have the whole family will get up and just sit in and do songs. And I know when Cody was playing, his kids were with him. And it's just kind of a really cool experience to have all that. So then after Braun Brothers, we came home and had the last revel. And here's another little acoustic shot that they did at the end of their show. There's a little video, I think. Maybe it was just an image. Yeah, I think I just did a screen grab. So the last Rebel, they've come through several times, and they put on a great show. That was right after we got back from Braun Brothers. And then next up is the Pat Travers Band. And, Pat Travers, another one of those icons in classic rock. I mean, everybody has heard Snorting Whiskey and Drinking Cocaine and Black Betty, and he's got just a number of hits that when you hear, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is. And also obviously played in a lot of different bands with a lot of different groups and recorded with tons of different folks. And so he's just a super good guy. I picked him up in Bozeman, him and the band, and just a down-to-earth, super good guy. And let's try this video and see. He's an amazing guitarist. Is from the old Crash and Burn album. Train going by in the background there, and yeah, they put on a great show. And here's another little clip. can still just tear up that guitar.
Yeah, he's incredible. Now, speaking of his guitar and what we're seeing there, he told you a story about one of his guitars?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one of those, back in the day when Fender was making their guitars in the early 50s, apparently there was an issue where their paint booth wouldn't seal real well, and so sometimes dust would get in there and ruin some of the guitars, so they would sand them down and then paint them a darker color, and you wouldn't even know that you had one of these mistakes until you wore through the colors. And he's got one of those old guitars that actually has 2 colors and obviously got a lot of play on it, and it's just an amazing piece of musical history, so to speak. And so yeah, that was just a really, really cool way to kind of top off the summertime shows outside. I mean, we'll still have another, hopefully 2 to 3 weeks of good music outside, but that was one of the bigger shows for the summer outside here. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the summer. It was a busy one. And of course, we didn't even have the Bob Marshall that next year we'll be planning and getting that all up and running, and hopefully even be talking about it here shortly as far as who our big acts are going to be and dates and times and locations and all that stuff. But that kind of puts a wrap around what we did last summer, almost like we're going back to school and everybody's got to take that 15 minutes and tell, what did you do this summer?
What did you do this summer?
We did a couple things.
Yeah. We also like to do, I mean, the reason we kept this open is we can talk and do about anything. Now we've done an interview with an awesome musician, which we're going to hold a little while until we get some material out.
Yeah.
Because we're just kind of getting this thing up and running. But we also want to do other stuff. When you talked about, we're talking about kind of doing a mobile setup so we could hopefully by next summer take it to Gordy's and things like that and do some interviews and that'd be fun. But even just, you just went fishing and I was out of town, so I missed it with you. But you got down and, hit a little
got some
Montana stream.
Smoked them up within an hour or so, and they were so tasty. It was so good. But yeah, I think it's going to lend itself to be able to go a lot of different directions. I mean, there'll be times where we're talking about the arcade and pinball tournaments that we're going to do. And there's another thing I want to start doing here in the late fall after football season, which is we're going to actually set up a vinyl listening area in one of the rooms we have at the brewery called the Power Room, and bringing in a really nice stereo system with really good turntable and good vinyl, and we're going to call it Deep Grooves, and just have like maybe a Monday or a Tuesday night where you could come in from like 7 to 9, and we'll advertise what albums we're going to play.
Oh, wow.
And you could just hang out and listen to some really good vinyl. There's a lot of people that just have never had an opportunity to experience that. And the sound is, as you and I both know, both of us have, phonograph players, and it's just a different level of sound. So we're excited to do that.
It is really hard to grasp and understand why in those grooves there can be so much more information that can be pulled out of an album.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that, and just a number of other things that we've got kind of in the works here that we'll be talking about week over week as we continue to progress. And actually the tap room gets busier in the fall and through the winter than we do in the summer, just because so many people are out enjoying the great outdoors of Montana during the summer here. I'm looking forward to sharing more and more of what the day-to-day goings on are in the tap room, and some good video footage and stuff like that. So people can, even if they're not from Helena, they can still get a good feel for what we're doing at the brewery at any one time.
Well, I know we've obviously we have other stuff going on in our lives, but we've also want to do a history of the brewery. So we said 22 years. So we're like, man, I know I have pictures of that. Where is it?
So now I've got like a stack of old hard drives back when they first were coming out. And I've saved these in boxes because I knew someday I got to go through and look at all these photos. So we're talking hours and hours of surfing through photos and videos. But yeah, I think that's going to be really fun. I mean, to be able to break down kind of the growth of the brewery maybe into 5-year chunks or something to where we can, make it to where it's not a 22-hour
I don't think I can post anything that big, but
but we're going to have fun doing it too, and we're going to be able to tell some fun stories, and it'll actually help remember some of these events that have occurred, because a lot of times, you take video of stuff that is going on, whether it's a flood or whatever's happening at that moment. And so it'll be kind of interesting.
It has been. I mean, it's been a great ride with you and many other good people, the brewery. And so you do sit back and think about things, and it'll be nice to have those as best we can all in one place.
Yep.
So you can go back and look at it and go, oh yeah, those are great pictures, because it's been from the old days where in a very, very small facility underneath a restaurant, and
for sure,
to what we have now. It's been
we're blessed. No doubt. There's been some challenges and struggles along the way, but it's been a labor of love. And when you look back at it, you really do appreciate where you came from and all the people that helped you get to where you're at. So.
Right. And I know another thing we want to do is some. When we can, do some musicians interviews, because you've done a fantastic job about developing and maintaining relationships with some of our favorite musicians. And then even when we look ahead, again, these things are hard to schedule at times, but when we look at folks that we really want to highlight that are coming into the brewery, try to get an interview of them, sometime out and get it out there.
I definitely think that's going to happen. And I think there's even a pretty strong possibility that some of these folks, we're actually working on a deal right now that could allow us to see some higher level musicians come through in more of a very intimate acoustic kind of performance in cooperation with a couple of other venues in Montana.
Right.
And if that all comes through, then it just would make a lot of sense for us to be able to, because when they're not with the full band and all the stuff that goes along with it,
they have more flexibility.
Yeah, we can bring them out here, do it, and maybe even bring a guitar, plug it in, play some music.
It'd be awesome to have them here in the little studio. And have them play.
It'd be very cool.
Very, very cool. Well, any final thoughts?
Gosh, I think I'm ready for another beer.
I think it's time to wrap it up and
I'm looking forward
get some freshies. Me too. So for Max, it's Rick, and thanks for tuning in to our inaugural edition of the Brewery Boys Expedition.
Cheers.
Cheers.